The United Nations' fourth Sustainable Development Goal is quality education. The UN wants to ensure inclusive and equitable quality education and promote lifelong learning opportunities for all. Let us explain. Thank you.
Firstly, they want to eliminate gender disparity in education. Did you know that only 60% of countries have achieved gender equality in primary education and 38% in secondary school education? This isn't acceptable. By 2030, all men and women should have an equal opportunity to learn valuable skills such as technical and vocational expertise. This opens the door to employment and a better quality of life.
This means access to university is vital. At the moment, there are far too few universities, which cost way too much. The UN hopes to substantially increase the supply of qualified teachers, including international teacher training courses for developing countries. By subsequently expanding the global number of scholarships available to these countries, the aim is to have a greater enrollment in higher education, whereby people can also learn about sustainability lifestyles, cultural diversity, human rights, and gender equality.
As well as this, the UN want to ensure all youth achieve literacy and numeracy. To do this, the aim is to provide free, quality primary and secondary school for all. Access to pre-primary education for childhood development is also a key to achieving this goal. And that's what you should know about the United Nations' fourth Sustainable Development Goal.
So what are you going to do about it? Check out members.worldmerit.org, and thanks for watching.
There is no doubt that quality education can help reduce poverty, foster economic prosperity, improve health and well-being. It can help a person to understand this world better or build a base for the future. It's clear, it's simple, education is important. However, today there are places around the world where 14 students share just one book. Girls simply drop out because there are no toilets in schools. Today, 58 million children are denied the basic right to education. Those children did not even have a choice, but you do.
United Nations has adopted an agreement with 17 global goals to be reached by 2030. In order to achieve sustainable development, eradicate poverty, fight inequality, and promote peace and democracy. Goal 4 wishes to guarantee an inclusive, equitable, and high-quality education and promote lifelong learning opportunities for all people. In spite of all the international conventions, the right to education is violated systematically, condemning millions of people around the world to poverty and exclusion. Education is a universal human right and also promotes peace and freedom, reduces poverty, saves lives, is a key for sustainable development, enables the empowerment of girls and women, and strengthens democracy. The right to a quality education for all will become a reality only when all children attend a free and high-quality school for at least 12 years, youth and adult illiteracy disappear, men and women receive a professional and university education, educational discrimination against indigenous people, women and girls, persons with disabilities, or children victims of conflicts disappear. What is needed to achieve this? More qualified, motivated, and well-paid teachers, safe and inclusive schools, more and better investments in education, at least 20% of the national budget in each country, plus $22 billion a year from the international community, which is equivalent to 4.5 days of annual military expenditures. But especially, what is needed is political will. The guarantee of a quality education for all people is the responsibility of government and society. Edu Jesuit contributes to make it possible for everyone to learn and be educated because it's our right. Because a quality education opens doors and windows to hope. Get engaged with the right to education. Follow us on edujesuit.org.
What was your favorite project with Freedom Corps?
I had thousands of them. We had a list of 42 different initiatives that with the Freedom Corps, and one program that I saw locally was something called the Earth Conservation Corps, and it was a legatee of the largest experiment in our history of national service, which was Franklin Roosevelt's Civilian Conservation Corps. Where, think about it, literally in March he calls Congress into emergency session. Within 3 months, he's got 250,000 young unemployed men on public lands and national parks and state parks working to strengthen the country and our natural resources. And over the life of that program, 3 million Americans served in it. 84 million acres were protected by it, which is the entire acreage of our whole national park system. And 800 parks were built, and a guy who would become pretty famous in American history named George C. Marshall with the U.S. Army. He wasn't a general at the time, but he organized a lot of the CCC camps. And so today we're very excited that General Stanley McChrystal, who commanded our troops in Iraq and Afghanistan, is leading our effort, our new effort. But this Earth Conservation Corps enlisted young, 16 to 28-year-olds. One of them, LaShante Moore, had been a teenager who had a number of children out of wedlock, had dropped out of high school, and was literally homeless on the streets of Washington. And she found us, and we found her. And she viewed herself as sort of a problem for society to care for. And when she became a Corps member in the Earth Conservation Corps, was part of a small team that brought the nation's symbol, the bald eagle, from Wisconsin, actually, fledglings from Wisconsin and Minnesota, where you're originally from, to the nation's capital. And these fledglings became adults, and now we have multiple pairs of bald eagles flying around Washington and the Anacostia River because of these young kids who were in the Corps. And, she told me years later, she said, I went from a problem society was supposed to solve to extraordinary potential as a young person that could be unleashed. And it was the Earth Conservation Corps that made that realization for her.
The tornado touched down on the southwest side of Joplin shortly before 6 p.m. on May 22, 2011. Almost immediately it was massive, a powerful and deadly rotating column of air that would go on to carve a path of unimaginable destruction through one of the most densely populated areas in southwestern Missouri. While the scattered remains of homes, businesses, and lives have mostly been cleared away, the breathtaking magnitude of the historic storm is still clear. Few structures have been rebuilt. Concrete slabs line barren lots like the tombstones of former homes and families. More than 160 people perished in the tornado, and the community is still shaken. Storms of such force are exceedingly rare. The EF5 tornado was the deadliest in the United States since modern record-keeping began in 1950. Rebuilding this small Midwestern city is ongoing. It will take years to complete. This April, St. Joseph students from both campuses visited Joplin for an alternative spring break trip. They went to help rebuild. They went to help with relief. These are some of their stories. Joplin, Missouri presented a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to the group that traveled there on the alternative spring break, a trip that has become an annual tradition at St. Joseph's. Unlike previous trips, the chosen location was the setting of an almost inconceivable natural disaster. None of the students had ever seen damage of such scope. It was an experience they won't soon forget.
It looks like a nuclear bomb just hit this place, but they're rebuilding little by little, pieces by pieces, but they're doing good. But in some places it looks like it's just totally destroyed.
I don't think anyone really understood how it was until you saw it. I mean, we all saw the videos on the news channels, but when you're here, it's definitely a shocker.
To help with the monumental task of rebuilding, St. Joseph sent a team of 21 students and staff from both campuses to Joplin to volunteer on a series of projects. Campus Ministry Director Pat Tracy considers the trip to be among the most unique opportunities that SJC has to offer.
Over the years, we've found that when we offer an alternate to the regular commercial travel, where sometimes it's about selfish behavior, instead, we go somewhere where there's a need, either helping the vulnerable, maybe somebody who's been the victim of a disaster, maybe an underserved community, and sometimes both.
The main project for the week was the construction of a series of vibrant garden boxes and complimentary memorial garden in the schoolyard of Cecil Floyd Elementary, which was heavily damaged by the tornado. The project was devised by the nonprofit organization Relief Spark, which was the host organization for the trip.
For college kids to give up their spring break on some warm beach, to come out to a city that's been destroyed by a tornado or a flood, says a lot about their character as a person. They care about the community, they care about the people that they're interacting with, they have heart, they want to make a difference, and they're here to work, and at the end they see a magnificent result like this garden. I mean, it's incredible what they've created.
Students also worked with AmeriCorps and were sent to several sites around Joplin throughout the week to help with debris cleanup and construction projects. Their reasons for donating their time varied only slightly. Most of them just wanted to help.
It just felt like a great opportunity. It kind of sprung up in front of me, and I thought they needed the help, and I have the free time, so I might as well contribute.
I do a lot of volunteering during the summer, similar to stuff like this, maintaining property, and I was excited that St. Joe's had something like that for me to do.
I just want to give back to the community, give back to these wonderful people out here, and it feels great to do that.
The tornadoes hit last year, and I was devastated by it, and I was I want to do whatever I can to help, and when they said Joplin, Missouri, I was right down there, and I wanted to help. That's why I came.
Russell Gerke, an engineer and inventor based in Independence, Missouri, has devoted his life to developing state-of-the-art storm shelters since the tornado hit Joplin. To bring his life-saving innovations to life, Gerke has relied on volunteers like those from St. Joe's to help in the assembly of the shelters, which are fabricated from a polymer used in the construction of playground equipment.
Everybody knows somebody that's died. They see the damage every day. I mean, the town's rebuilding, the landscape has changed, but the emotional landscape is still messed up. And part of the healing process is having a safe place to go when at home or at school or whatever. Those kids need that anchor. So fear is, it's kind of like a sickness. It really is. When they get a shelter, it's like you cured them of a disease.
The trip to Joplin was life-changing for all the students that had the privilege of going. The power of nature is humbling, but the outpouring of support from volunteers has helped the healing process for those whose lives were uprooted.
They're amazing. I think they're cool, fun, and amazing, great hearts, and some of them have actually worked inside with kids off and on throughout the week, and I have had wonderful feedback from my teachers about them as well. So they're kind and interesting, and you know, what an amazing thing to do, to give up your spring break to go help folks rebuild.
Let me take you into the town of Kazimierz, where in 1993, Steven Spielberg shot his film, Schindler's List. This film drew international attention, but the town of Kazimierz was established in the 14th century and was originally a royal city of the crown of the Polish kingdom. Today it's located south of Krakow Old Town. For many centuries, Kazimierz was a place of coexistence between Christian and Jewish cultures. Its northeastern part of the district was historically Jewish. But in 1941, the German occupying forces took those inhabitants and forcibly removed them and placed them in the Krakow ghetto. 17,000 of those residents from the Jewish quarter were eventually brought here to what became known as the Jewish ghetto. And Christoph was sharing some thoughts as to what took place here on the plaza. In fact, Christoph, you explained to me that at any given time, the Germans would bring out 1,000 to 2,000 of the residents here for the selection process.
Yeah, the selection goes this way. So you can either be able to work or not. And in here, they actually select the people. If you are not able to work, you've been removed from here to the concentration camp.
Which basically was a death sentence.
Exactly. And this is why you have the chance in here, because the people, they still have hope that maybe they survive. So this is why they want to take as many useful things as they could. And of course they were not able to take all those things.
But they'd bring their chairs.
Exactly. This is why they leave them in here. And this is why the monument like this, to remind us about those people who die in here, who've been moved from here to die in a concentration camp.
How many people out of the 17,000 that were put into the ghetto survived?
I would say around 1,000, something like that. Not many, not great group actually.
So just terrible.
Exactly.
But also, in addition to the selection process here in the plaza, some horrific things took place before anybody got sent off to a particular extermination camp.
Exactly. Some really, really terrifying things happen, especially with the kids. When you think about that, it's really, really terrifying. So for example, you know, the commandant from here, called Amongad, he actually take the small kids.
From the
mother, exactly, and threw it on the ground. Just crush it this way.
So we're talking about an infant.
Exactly.
Taken and thrown.
Throw it away on the ground. And also, you know, with the a little bit older kids, they just take them all together, put them head to head, so they could only use one bullet to kill them all.
They would just murder children right here.
So basically, you know, it looks like a river full of blood. There were so many people killed in here.
Now, it's one of the things that, you know, it's hard to fathom what took place here, because today you look, it's an open plaza and you can't believe the horrors, but that's why we do this, to talk about these things.
Exactly.
And you had mentioned there's a pharmacist that was here and he was the only Christian in the ghetto.
Yes.
How did he manage to be here?
He was really smart, because he said that the pharmacy is actually needed in a ghetto, because if the epidemic happened, the walls of the ghetto will not protect the Nazis from the epidemic. This is why they let him stay.
So isn't that interesting?
And this is why he could use his position to help those people in here.
Right.
Really famous person.
And so we're going to take a walk over there and take in what they've left behind, because it's an interesting little museum that talks about some of what he experienced.
Exactly.
All right, off we go.
Yeah.
So the edge of the ghetto has a few reminders of the wall that contained the Jews. And the wall itself was designed by the Germans to look like, what do you think? To look like tombstones, of all things. Really unbelievable. And if you think the wall's not high enough to keep people in it, just take a look over here, because it's more than high enough. In fact, it was impossible for them to escape. The only way out was a deportation, which was basically a ticket to extermination at one of the camps.
Ooh.